All right, Greg Norman out in Scotland, of course, of the big British Open, and I guess the origin, the genesis of golf itself, right? Essentially telling those who've been critical of the LIV Golf Series, of which he is a prominently paid member, to just ease up. Says that the Saudi-backed LIV League has been actually very good for the sport and soon to be very good for female players. Didn't exactly take on Tiger Woods, damning it, but did zing him a couple of times. Let's get the read on where all of this is going. Doug Eldridge, sports agent extraordinaire, the Achilles PR founder. The guy's a walking encyclopedia on this subject. But, Doug, good to have you back. Do you think it's overkill on trying to kill off LIV and the response the PGA has had, some prominent PGA players have had to this? It's a free market. These guys can do what they want, can't they?
100%. First of all, I completely agree it's a free market. When you and I discussed this maybe a month and a half ago, I said these guys are independent contractors. This is not a collectively bargained situation like the NFL. These guys should have freedom to contract in the absence of some type of contract with the PGA that prevents it. But I do think, to your point, sir, the PGA is kind of overcorrecting on ice a little bit. It's almost like the 7 stages of grief, the anger, the depression, and they're not quite at the bargaining stage yet, but you saw them initially dismiss it, didn't even give it attention. Then they got angry and started to punish players, suspending 20 of them. Now they're trying to discredit the LIV tournament as a whole, not the least of which is its CEO, 2-time Open winner Greg Norman.
So I'm just wondering, are they acting like a bully? And is that why we're hearing, the Justice Department might be looking into this? That is the PGA.
I feel like a bully is a subjective term. I think objectively speaking, there's really a basis for a potential antitrust claim. The DOJ has purportedly been contacting player agents to really look at the underpinnings of anti-competitive behavior, not the least of which is how they're adjusting players' rankings. Now, remember, players make money for 2 primary ways. Number one, tour winnings based on the larger tournaments, but you have to be at a certain ranking to qualify unless you're a past winner. And then off-court earnings, right? Your sponsorships. Well, you're seeing the PGA burn the rope from both ends, both in terms of manipulating player rankings, as well as leaning on sponsors who have a complex relationship both with the PGA Tour and its players to end relationships. Mickelson lost his entire portfolio of sponsors. Now, that's for a variety of reasons, but LIV was the cherry on top. Bryson DeChambeau lost his Bridgestone deal in the last week, which was a lucrative long-term agreement, and they specifically cited his participation in the LIV. So I do think there's really an underpinning to the basis for an anti-competitive investigation for sure.
Well, I just find there's also the hypocrisy element. I can understand being aghast at the Saudis, in particular Mohammed bin Salman, and the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. I get all of that. But it's not as if the PGA isn't above, linking up with countries that have nefarious human rights issues. China comes to mind. So it just strikes me as like, really, get over the lecture.
Yeah, I agree with you. If we're calling balls and strikes, then let's keep the role of the umpire. Let's not, if you're a fan in the stands, you can yell anything you want while you're drinking that cold beer and having the hot dog. But I think too often some of the commentators conflate those 2 roles. In that objective balls and strikes sense, I think you're absolutely right. Whether it's the NBA's, nearly $500 million, close to $1 billion relationship with China.
Right.
I've heard people talk, many of whom I respect greatly, like Jim Gray, talk on this program and others saying, hey, this is sports washing. Every corporation tries to align with positive athletes because they're seen as role models in the most holistic sense, from discipline, fortitude, goal setting, accomplishment, as well as the lifestyle required to achieve it. That's the absolute an endorsement. So to call a ball on China but call a strike on Saudi Arabia seems entirely subjective and well outside of the strike zone if we're being honest about this.
I just wish, Doug, encyclopedia that you would have used more golf analogies to say that maybe the PGA is hitting the rough or got itself in its own little sand trap, but I can't just give you this stuff, Doug. But great insight, my friend. Very good insight. Doug Eldridge, the sports agent extraordinaire. So what's that old line that let he who is without sin cast the first stone? I don't know the golf version of that, but it might be this. We'll have more after this.